Pretty windy up here, but I did want to call attention to these markers. This row of stones, very simple, plain stones, each with a name on the top, corresponds to the names on the more prominent stone behind me. I can't read a lot of the dates or the ages, but apparently it's just this family's children who did not make it more than a few months, it seems. So this cemetery seems to be in a lot of disrepair, mostly due to the fact that stones are tumbling and crumbling. onto the ground instead of on the bases that they originally sat. Now I think it has to do a little bit with some erosion here because we are on a steep hill. What I do like though is that it's not completely going uncared for. Right behind me you see all these cones. What they're doing is they're making fresh bases. Those are cement platforms so that they can put stones back where they were. You can see the stones right here. They can put them back where they were, but flat and more secure in the ground so that they don't topple. Because a lot of what I've seen are stones toppling because the ground has started to wear down, and with that, the stone's weight just carries it forward. I don't know how long they've been doing this. There's a lot of work to do to secure all that. And I know what some people may think. They're like, well, then why would you put a cemetery on a hill? Why do you always see cemeteries on hills? Why don't they just automatically put them on flat ground? Because in places where it is very hilly, which this place is a very hilly place, you build houses on flat ground because it's at a premium, and you place cemeteries on hills because you're not going to build a house there. Flatlands for the living, hills are for the deceased. One of the things I've noticed about this cemetery as well is that most cemeteries I go to, they will have an older section. That's where the cemetery originated. And then you will see the more modern burials spread out beyond that. Or at the very, very back end of the cemetery, or at the very, very front end of the cemetery, that's where the section will be, the older section. And then again, the newer stones will spread out from there. That's not really the case here. While there are definite major sections where it's more modern burials, there are a lot of old stones scattered around through there as well. So it seems like people were buried kind of willy-nilly in this area, and then everything else started getting filled in. That could be due to a couple things. The amount of money you had when you were alive, because I have seen stones that are very ornate, very pretty, sculpted stones next to ones that are a little less. They're concrete slabs with imprints in there with a name and a date. So it seems like, some of the demographics were scattered around quite a bit. It's a little bit of a mystery to me, to be perfectly honest. But I don't have a lot of time here, but I did see some stones that should probably get cleaned. So I'm going to get my gear together. I'm going to clean 2 or 3 stones and end out the episode. it's time for me to go. I've cleaned a bunch of stones here. The ones I wanted to point out, these ones, they're not as bright and as perfectly clean as I would like to make them, but their foundations are a little wobbly, especially these last two. So what I did is I just did like a basic scrape off lightly the stuff that wanted to come off, sprayed them down with D2, gave them a very light brush, and then washed them off. I'll let the D2 do most of the heavy lifting on those ones. This one's a little bit more solid, so I was able to scrape a little bit more of the gunk off, but you can now read it perfectly fine. And it will also lighten up like all the other stones I clean. Over the next few days, the weeks, they'll start to lighten up quite a bit. But it's time for me to get back on that road. So remember, when you are out walking amongst the stones, remember 2 things. Be safe, be respectful. I'll see you on the next one.